What's going on? And welcome to a special edition of the Best Damn Wrestling Podcast, where it's Keithan and Sherrod, and we're joined by two of our favorite guests, Anthony and Alex from AA Talk Stuff. What's going on, guys?
Yo, yo, thanks for
Hey,
having
what's
us back.
up?
Well, this is the second time we're doing this. It was so good the first time we thought we just had to do it again. So I I mean, guys, it's always a pleasure. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. I don't know about Keithan, but it's definitely been
Yep.
like a list of things to do. So, I mean, without further ado, man, we'll jump right in. And there's no rhyme or reason to any of this. We'll just go. The first thing we'll go to is obviously, Anthony, you went to Double or Nothing. Is this correct?
I did.
Yeah, I envy you. I envy you.
He only told everybody like every day. So
Which is
False.
what you're supposed to do.
I mean, Jesus, how was it?
It was. It was. I didn't tell that many people. I only said it when it was topical or when
No,
it
he
needed
would
reference.
post something. It'd be like, "Hey, be sure to check out our show." Oh yeah, by the way, I'll be at Double or Nothing. Hey, it's a good day. Oh yeah, I'll be at Double or Nothing. Like, what the fuck?
We wanted because we thought the first-hand experience would add more to. We have an episode dropping very shortly about like the recap and some different things with that, and those we thought the first-hand experience, uh, would kind of tie in. But it was awesome. The energy and atmosphere that was there was just one of like the most positive and exciting experiences I've ever been a part of. Like the buzz that was just there nonstop from the moment of being in line. Like the line situation wasn't worked great. Like they opened the doors an hour before the pre-show started. It moved kind of slow, but there was no negativity. Everybody was just positive and like vibing the entire time. And then when it actually came time for the show, I mean, the show spoke for itself. Every match was good. There wasn't any like lulls or really like bad spots. Every match hit. The big matches hit hard. We got to see Moxley at the end. We saw an amazing, storytelling experience with Cody and Dustin, and we got to see some blood, and they had to change the canvas because the blood was so soaked into the canvas and looked like an old school WCW match when Flair would get busted open like crazy. And we had a great in ring
Woo!
work rate match. Woo! Even though Flair is trash, we got to see
Oh,
a great
oh.
in ring work rate. We got to see a great in ring work rate match from the Bucks and the Lucha Bros. We got to see Kenny and Jericho again. Like we got storytelling, we got in ring work, we got blood, we got headline grabbing moments, and then we got history, and the women's matches were good. It was fucking awesome.
Man, you could definitely feel the electricity through the television. Oh, P.S. By the way, who didn't see it?
I saw it. Hell, you
Oh,
talking about? Don't
so
don't
you
you try
finally.
don't you try to don't you try to screw me.
No,
Don't
I'm
under the
just
bus.
asking.
Yeah,
I
that seemed like it
don't.
was aimed at a person.
Yeah, it
Wow.
was. It
Oh,
was.
oh God.
I didn't
Okay.
see it, and I'm fine with that.
Oh, you didn't see it at all?
No, we talked about how on our podcast I wasn't gonna watch it.
Yeah,
What
I'm
the
pretty distraught about it actually.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of.
You know what? We did the same thing. I said I wasn't gonna pay $50, so you know what? I waited for an illegal way to watch it.
Nice.
That's what I
Yeah,
did.
I could just follow it on Twitter. I was like, all right, fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I,
Alex caught up after and like saw kind of everything and knows everything what happened. But yeah, I mean, our last episode that we did before it came out, I like the majority of the episode was we talked about like the preview of AEW, but
right.
I was trying to
Convincing,
convince Alex.
which
Yeah,
is why I thought Alex decided to actually watch it after that episode because I listened to it. I was like, well, Jesus,
No,
I
I
thought
watched it. I watched it by it.
Dude, man, I went to my friend's house and we had discussed this all week leading up to. He had a watch party, so we
nice.
discussed it all.
Sick.
Oh no, it wasn't that fucking nice. Let me just discuss it all week. And he was like, "Hey, what is it going to be on?" I was like, "Well, it's on the fucking Bleacher Report deal or whatever, which is $50, or it's on ITV, which without saying a lot, ITV." So we get there, and it's a room full of guys, like diehard wrestling fans. We watched the pre-show on YouTube. It was great. We're like, "Fuck, all right, let's jump right into it." Well, we get to the actual pay-per-view itself, and there's no pay-per-view. And everybody in the room's looking at him, and he's like, well, I don't know why it's not working. And Did you do what I told you? No. Well, now's a fine time to say no. We missed the first hour while he figured out how to get. Oh, I was so fucking pissed.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then we were giving him shit while he was trying to figure it out because he was trying to find a way to do it without paying the $50. Well, at a certain point, I guess he felt so bad because you got a room full of guys and all of us congregated here. We missed the first 45 minutes to an hour. I think when I jumped in, I missed Awesome Kong and Nyla Rose. I was so I did get a chance to go back and watch it on YouTube, but yeah, it was probably the most anticlimactic experience I think I've ever felt. But when we finally got it on, again, you could feel the energy through the television. Something was different that day that I hadn't experienced. I think the only thing that brings me like to even compare to that is say a takeover, like today, for instance. But I mean, even then, you know, what was it like being there with the whole John Moxley thing at the end?
It was nuts. Like it's funny. So Alex and I, with a group of our friends, we went to Supercard when it was, you know, in the city of Madison Square Garden, and when the whole Enzo and Cass bullshit happened, we were still focused in the ring. And then like the fight started and nobody in our group was like paying attention to it. And I noticed it out of the corner of my eye and I was like, yo, look at the fight over there. And then everybody in our group looked and eventually everybody else started to look. And the same thing happened with the Moxley thing. Like everybody was so like involved in what Jericho was saying. I think everybody in the arena was kind of like, oh shit, Kenny lost. And then Jericho's post-match, you know, speech was so funny and captivating that everybody was kind of just focusing on Jericho. Nobody really noticed Moxley, you know, coming out, you know, Shield style, except for everybody that he was walking past. And so it was kind of like a slow burn. And once you realized he was there and then kind of snaked his way through the crowd, the pop was insane. And I posted a video of like when he came through. The person that is screaming is 100% me. That's me yelling, "Oh shit!" and Dean Ambrose. And it sounds like a girl, but it is 100% me. I lost my shit because Alex and I had talked about like, oh, what would be like sweet for somebody to come out, and we were like, oh, it'd either be like Moxley or Punk. What would happen? But at the end of that, at the end of the night, I didn't want to have any expectations. You know, I wanted AEW to succeed, and I wanted Double or Nothing to be sweet, but I just wanted to enjoy the show. So I was just involved in the moment, taking it in for what it is. And so when I saw Moxley, I popped like hard, and then everybody in the arena popped, and it was just madness. Like I don't think on TV, I saw it on Bleacher Report after, like on Twitter, how it came off, and it captured it pretty good. But that really was one of those things, like to be there and to experience how electric everybody was when they saw him. It was nuts. And then the brawl and him, you know, hitting dirty deeds on top of the chips. And then he comes through the crowd again and comes right in front of like where I'm seated, you know, and stands up and kind of like yells into the crowd like Dwayne Wade did in that one game for the Miami Heat when he got on the scorer's table. Like it was just so electric and it was fucking awesome. The pop was nuts.
Yeah, I felt that through the video.
Yeah,
I definitely felt that.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I was like, man, Anthony's girlfriend is really screaming.
That was 100% me. that was that was that was 100% me.
You know, it doesn't work like this. I was like, man, she's really excited. That's a foreign concept. I had no idea. But we were doing the same thing at his house when it came up. I'm not gonna be ungrateful. I thought it was great. I'm excited for it. But I would have preferred CM Punk. Am I the only person that feels that?
No, I think everybody would have preferred
Punk. Yeah, everybody preferred that until I saw the All Out poster and seeing that it was going to be in Chicago. Then I was like, okay, it kind of makes more sense for him to have his moment on his home turf, hopefully.
Yeah, I think he might be there for All Out. That would be nuts.
Yeah, that would be.
Do you think he comes in?
I think so. He has a good rapport with Cody and the Young Bucks. They have little Twitter exchanges here and there. Everything's on friendly. I think he'll come back, maybe not in the wrestling capacity, but even as an announcer, he'll be great.
No, that's bullshit. If he's not wrestling, I'd just be distraught. Like I really would. That would
I
hurt
don't know
my
if he
heart.
wants to. Like, does he
Yeah, I
want
don't
to
know.
come back?
Exactly.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
Exactly. Does
I
he
don't think
want
he
to?
does. I think he just likes like fucking with all the fans and just
Yeah.
like responding to like people on Twitter and doing things just to get our hopes up.
Yeah.
But he has so much in common with all the people, the main stars of that brand. I mean, I'm assuming everybody has heard the Dean Ambrose or John Moxley Jericho podcast after Double or Nothing. Yes, no.
Yes.
They had a podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
Ha.
Oh, I was about to say, oh God, yeah, but no, it sounds exactly like CM Punk talking about the things that he hated about WWE on the Colt Cabana podcast. It was almost the exact same. And I feel like because he has so much in common with them and Jericho and Moxley and Cody and Kenny Omega, maybe this is a better place for him to work. And he kind of gets to do his own thing and bring his own ideas in. I know for Ambrose, that's something he harped on big time was, hey, I get to play my own music. That's something he kept saying. And I would love to see him and AJ Lee come in together and maybe them Cody and Brandy, for the king or queen of AEW. I think that would be great. But I think I'm just
I
hoping.
don't know. I think
Utopia.
AJ is just as done with wrestling as CM Punk.
Yeah. And that's what I mean by hoping against hope. They both may just be WWE may have fucked them up so badly that they just don't want to do it anymore. Period.
That's the thought. Like, I wonder, Alex and I talked about the same thing. Like, it would be so awesome if, Punk and AJ Lee both came back, or like one of them, or especially Punk, like either or whatever. But yeah, I don't know what their mindset is. I think like with somebody like Ambrose, or John Moxley, however you want to like refer to him, he was somebody that like you could tell like was all about the creativity and the passion aspect. So like you could tell that you knew that he still wanted to express that. He still wanted to be able to, engage in his passion. I don't know if Punk still has it anymore, because I feel like if he did, he could have gone. Maybe he really wanted to do the MMA thing, but he could have gone somewhere else when he left WWE. Like he could have gone to New Japan. He could have gone to Ring of Honor. He's still like AEW is a bigger catch, I guess, now, and it's maybe an easier workload or more money or whatever. But if he really wanted to wrestle, he had those avenues and he could have done it. It would be awesome to see him at All Out, but I just don't know what his thought process is.
Maybe you just wanted to get the MMA like out of his system, a little bit, like, and don't worry. He got knocked out of his system.
Yeah, it's out
2 times, and they beat the shit out of it.
It's out
2 times.
Just saying, I think it would be smart actually to try to target AJ to try and get her in the company, and then kind of use her to try to get Punk like later on. Like how I think they might be able to like get Renee Young down the line, like when her contract's up, because they have Dean now.
Oh,
so
that's
just like
after what he's done, they're gonna penalize her. If she's not gone within 6 to 9 months, something's wrong, because he's basically went on a national stage in a national setting and said it verbally and non-verbally. Hey, fuck you guys. So there's going to be some blowback there for her. I know for sure. If you don't see it immediately, it'd probably be because it was seen too obvious. But I'm pretty sure she's going to get some blowback. I thought about it, and you guys chime in, anybody, but maybe the reason that she was pushed so hard, as far as like, oh, we're going to put her on pay-per-views and take her off the pre-show, oh, we're putting her on Raw and things of that nature, was because they were trying to keep him there.
Yep.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could definitely
100%.
Like, yeah.
Right. Now that he's gone, it's like, okay, well, fuck off. Like, we're going to take you off of this show, and we're going to take you off of these, and we're going to put you back here. It's not a whole lot she can do. And he basically went on to a media platform like Talk is Jericho or whatever, and said, hey, these guys suck, which is something that the fan, a diehard or casual fan, has to know at this point. The product sucks, but for a guy like him, who was a staple and somebody that they really depended on, that was a big merchandise draw, that was a big draw with the Shield, that was one of their actual top guys at one point being a champion, he gets on TV or on, a podcast and says, hey, these guys suck, what they do sucks. The things they want us to do sucks. The people that write this shit, they know it sucks, but it's not anything we can do. It sucks. I don't want to work here because they suck. So for that, there's going to definitely there has to be some blowback. It may not be obvious, but it's going to happen.
Especially for how like we know that Vince, how he views women, and I feel it's very easy for him to be like, fuck her. Like they're a dime a dozen. Just get another blonde. Let's put Alexa on commentary. They're both white and blonde. They're the same person. So let's just bring her on, and everything will be great.
It definitely seems like they're grooming Charlie Caruso for Renee's spot because she's doing everything that Renee used to do. And I feel like they're giving it to that chick Charlie Caruso because they know Renee's gone.
Oh, and she hosted the pre-show for Takeover tonight, right?
Yeah.
I just think with Charlie, they love that like she also works at ESPN, so they're trying to like mooch on that as much as possible.
That makes sense.
I'm wondering
it makes more sense for her to do it then.
Yeah, and I'm wondering the blowback, like if Renee Young could play like the woman card on that, because like really taking her down a spot, she could like play that up, and it might look bad for them. I wonder how like she would play it, or if she'd be like, whatever, I don't care, I'll be out of here.
Maybe she wants to be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go to AEW, and I don't really give a shit.
It'll definitely look like retaliation on their part.
No, definitely, and I'm sure in their mind at some point, and this is an assumption, we don't know, but you know, it would be like, well, you're complicit because you were there when he did this podcast.
You heard Jericho say like hi to her when she came in. He's like, hi, Renee.
And when he said that, I was like, ooh.
I was like, oh shit.
Oh, I didn't hear that part.
He says hi to her, and you hear her like doing stuff in the kitchen in the background.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, she's definitely complicit, but it's not a lot she can do. But and that's what I'm thinking. He's kind of inadvertently. I know he didn't say all he could have said. CM Punk on the podcast he did with Cole Cabana didn't spare any expense. You suck. What you thought about suck. The guy's in charge. He didn't care because there was no AJ Lee there. She left when he left. You know, I think Jon Moxley, to his credit, was trying to not make as much trouble, but it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag now at this point. You know, you told things that nobody knew or whatnot. Up until a week ago, everybody thought this was a work. But now you're saying, hey, them wanted me to lose to Nia Jax. Not that I have a problem with her. That was stupid. Them wanted me to do comedy bits. That was stupid. I told them this one helped EC3 for me to do something. That was stupid. And every time, you know, I thought it was surprising that he said they asked him to extend his contract to do a European tour, and he told them to call somebody else. You know, those are things you wouldn't get out of anyone else.
No, and all that stuff with when Punk did his on Cole Cabana's podcast, everybody like it let us, you know, see into the business a little bit, but there were still a lot of people that were like, oh, you know, Punk's just great. Yeah, exactly. Punk's just bitter. That's not how it is. And for a while, maybe ever since then, or you know, for however long, there's been a bunch of us. I mean, we talked about it the last time we all got together. Like, it seems like WWE's like writing process or booking process sucks and it's bad. And we all named a bunch of things that we thought were going on. And then Ambrose on Jericho's podcast basically confirmed all of it. Like, everything he said was how the internet wrestling community like talks and thinks that WWE like works. We all think like, oh, this is how they do their promos. This is what Vince acts like. This is what Vince does. And then, you know, Ambrose went and confirmed all of it. And I think it's super funny. I saw a video on Twitter like last week. Rollins was at WizardCon or something, and somebody asked him a question like, oh, you know, how do you feel, you know, backstage when you know, you get your scripted promos and you're just reading off a script and there's like no creativity and you don't get to like make up your promos. And Rollins was like, oh, have you been backstage? Because that's funny. I've never seen you back there. And everybody in the crowd like laughed and basically told the guy who asked the question to like fuck off, because Rollins was like, that's not how it is. You're not back there. And then we get, you know, Ambrose's account, who's basically like, that's what it is. Like, we literally get a script and it's filled with stupid lines, and we try to change them and we're not allowed to, and we have to read off of a script. So like, there was all this kind of, you know, contrary evidence to make us think like, no, that's not how it is. You know, we're not in the business. Punk was just being a crybaby. That's not how it operates. And then, you know, Moxley comes out and is like, nope, this is exactly how it is. How everybody thinks it's shitty. That's what it is. It's shitty.
Right.
But you've gotten some of the same shit from Dave Bautista. That's why he left. Chris Jericho. That's why he won't go back. It's kind of been there, but they would only say so much. But I mean, to get a whole detailed, hey, this is what they do to us, and maybe for Rollins, it may not happen because I feel like for certain guys or certain people, they say, okay, I think they give John Cena free reign. Go out there, say what you want.
Yeah.
We'll deal with the blowback later. Just don't get too out of hand. But for a Dean Ambrose or, whoever, they say, okay, listen, this is what you have to say.
Yeah, it's that pecking order.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think Dean was, to a certain degree, he said it at the end of that podcast, hey, I'm a wild animal. I can't be domesticated for very long. They didn't know how to deal with him. They didn't get what he was and who he is and how he does things. And I think it was the same thing with Punk. CM Punk was better when left alone. CM Punk, to a certain degree, before he was wrangled in by WWE, if you think about it, was probably one of the last territorial wrestlers you'll ever see. He wrestled everywhere. He worked everywhere. He was a top guy everywhere. When he gets here, he's not accustomed to being told, hey, you have to do this. You have to do this. Hey, we need you to do this. He kind of just felt, he went with the ebb and flow and said, hey, I want to put this guy over. Hey, I think it's better if we do this. And people would say, well, fuck it. This guy's been everywhere. He's been over. He knew what to do. And then he got there and it wasn't like that anymore. And they turned him into the bad guy. The difference was,
it's basically the same thing. It's
right.
The same story with the same culprits.
The only difference was CM Punk was so over and so hot, you couldn't silence him. Dean Ambrose has never been the hottest he was when he won the WWE title, and we all know what happened after the WWE title, Keithan. So
yeah, he went on a Stone Cold podcast and shortly after lost that title and never got it back.
Right,
that's true.
Right. So I mean, I think to be honest with you, I think the Lunatic Fringe thing might have been his idea, but they didn't know what to do with it, and they weren't going to let him do what he wanted. So it didn't,
because they wouldn't let him do real things with it. He was like a lunatic, and their idea of him being a lunatic was like, "Oh, wear like a tank top and slap yourself in the face. That's crazy."
Yeah.
And he was like,
tape your wrists.
Yeah, lunatics tape their wrists and wear jeans and boots. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, he just used to run around jumping on people's backs, and they thought that
with
was
his tongue out.
Yeah, Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, they like that type of shit. That's why they're always the main targets in these shoot interviews. I was surprised that Triple H didn't get a lot of heat
Triple H made it out
Ambrose.
Scot free.
Pretty much scot free. But that's also telling to what else has been going on lately with the Triple H and Vince McMahon kind of back and forth thing.
I don't think Triple H gets a lot of power in the main roster stuff. I don't think he gets like a say. He's just there, but I think he's more the guy who like the big brother who puts his arm around everybody and is like, hey, calm down, it's gonna be okay. Like, and then he goes to NXT.
He dies, it'll be better. That's pretty much what the speech is probably going. Don't worry, it can't last much longer.
And now everybody's gonna be like, you know what? You might be right, but until he dies, I'm going to AEW.
Is that picture of like Triple H with Pete Dunne after he like lost the title? Like everybody's like, I don't know if you've seen that picture on like Instagram. It was on like WWE's Instagram or whatever. But it's just like Pete Dunne with his head down, like just disappointed. And it's like that's probably every speech he gives to a person. Like it's gonna be okay.
Especially these NXT dudes, like with Finn Balor, where they're like, "Hey, you're gonna be the demon. Demons stick their tongue out. Just stick your tongue out a whole bunch. Yeah, we love it. I'm Vince McMahon." And then Triple H has to be like, "It's all right, Finn. Like it'll be okay."
It's okay.
Right.
I mean, well, you could say the same thing for Aleister Black, who I just told my buddy today, like he was a can't miss talent. He was can't miss.
He's doing fucking vignettes every week now.
Yes, right. What the hell is that shit?
Yeah, they have fucked over him. It's ridiculous.
Buddy Murphy's another one. Buddy Murphy is dope as shit. They move him to SmackDown. He gets fucking nothing.
Ricochet.
They had him come out one time and they haven't seen him since.
They've turned Ricochet into a jobber.
At least he gets matches. At least him and Cesaro had like a good match, and he's had some run. Like we don't see anything with Buddy. Buddy Murphy's debut was on a SmackDown, and they had him do his entrance during a commercial spot. They came back to live TV, and he was just in the ring. Like he didn't even get a live entrance on TV for the first time. And then, like you said, Aleister Black, not even on the show, like does his vignettes but doesn't get to wrestle. The guy has the potential to be one of like at worst like one of the top 15 like wrestlers in the world. He's awesome. Had a massive following in NXT, has an awesome entrance, and doesn't. The only thing Vince did was add some fucking casket noises to his entrance and then put him in on fucking vignettes. Yeah, that stupid little creep.
What is up with those sound effects that they put on him in Ricochet's entrance? What the hell?
Because he wants to have that input to be like, yeah, I made this guy. You see what I did? I put the casket noise in.
Did anybody notice the burial of Brock Lesnar on this podcast?
Fuck Brock Lesnar. He's getting buried in the podcast.
I mean, the burial was definitely.
Oh yeah, everybody buries him. CM Punk did a good job of burying Ryback, so it's only right that another big guy gets buried.
I don't know. I don't know why they keep having to force him. I don't know. I'm so confused with Brock. I still think he's like kind of good, but I'm also like really bored by him. And then when he's there, I'm kind of like, oh.
He only has 3 fucking moves he does.
But he could do more. Like if we wanted him, for example,
he's not gonna do more.
No, but if he could, that's what I'm saying. He could do more. Like for example, if you had him, they pay him to do Germans, and that's it. But if he did, like, if you put him and Matt Riddle in a match against each other, it wouldn't be sweet. If they actually did like wrestling shit and holds and a whole bunch of crap in addition to the suplexes, like Brock is a really good athlete. He's a champion wrestler. Like he can do a bunch of shit, but instead, because he doesn't respect the business really or give a shit, he's like, cool, I'll just take my $1 million. I'll go do 17 Germans and an F5, and then I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the fucking boombox spot is irritating as fuck.
Oh, I think it's so funny.
It's funny, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I really don't think that's his fucking idea. I think he just makes himself do it because they paying him a fuck ton.
I'm sorry, it's a little disturbing to see Brock Lesnar dance. That's kind of disturbing.
That whole thing is probably their way of making it up to him that he didn't go on last at Mania. Okay, so here's what we'll do. Well, you'll win the Money in the Bank, even though you weren't in the fucking match, because I owe you one for doing this for me and putting Rollins over on the same night. So I really owe you one. You'll win Money in the Bank. We'll let Rollins hold the title for a little bit or whatever the fuck, so everybody won't panic. And then at a moment of your choosing, we'll go ahead and give it back to you, and you'll be champion for another year.
I think it's crazy that they make you saying that makes me think of 2 things. One, the thing that bothers me the most about it is the thing on this. I think it was this past Raw where Heyman was like, oh, you get a year to cash in, and Brock was like, what? I get a year? I want to be like, yo, you've never, yo, Rollins cashed in on you, my guy. Like, did you not know that he had the briefcase for a year? Do you not know anything about WWE whatsoever? Like, as your character, I just think that's stupid to have him do that. Like, that bothers me a lot. And then 2, I think it's so funny that Vince like will do anything for Brock and like he'll bury anyone or do anything as long as Brock is happy. And I think that's maybe it's because the money, obviously it's a bigger draw now with the money, but I think it's so funny when you like seeing, I just have Bret Hart in my head from being at Double or Nothing, like knowing how like Vince fucked over Bret, who literally was like ride or die for WWF and never did anything to like stab hit him in the back or wouldn't do anything shady. Like he was so untrustworthy of like a guy who gave his all for the company that he fucked him over completely, but he's willing to bend over in any way, shape, or form for a guy now who doesn't give 2 shits about the company whatsoever.
Well, because I think for the most part, it's like, hey, this is my main attraction. This is the guy. I can pay him whatever, because I'm pretty sure they pay him a fuck ton.
They do.
Fuck ton to do nothing. He shows up when he wants to. He wrestles when he wants to. He doesn't really. I think the last time I actually saw Brock really wrestle and really put his all into wrestling was when he was trying to pursue the undisputed title back in 03, 04, whatever the fuck it was. That was the last time I seen him and took him serious as a wrestler. Now he comes out, he does his little spoofs and spots and shit. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I don't feel like it this week or next week or the week after. We never even saw a hide or ear of him until Money in the Bank for a long time.
Well, see, it's just what you said. It's just what you said. He's big there. He's not going to be big anywhere else. Vince is the only one who's going to treat him like that. He goes to AEW. They're not going to let him toss people around like that and be a dominant force. He can't go to UFC and do that because he has his ass whooped before. be bloody. So he can't do it there. Vince is the only place, and WWE is the only place where he can actually do that. So he
But
has to.
look, with all of that being said, so okay, I, we're talking about Vince having his favorites, him missing out on guys that actually could have been something, guys jumping ship, going somewhere else. Does this not all sound vaguely familiar?
Oh yeah, I remember back
Mm,
2000, 2001.
I don't think so. Don't know what you're referencing.
Well, I'll just say it. Fuck.
We
I
don't
mean,
speak
it
ill of the
feels
dead.
right. It feels as if, to a degree, WWE is gradually becoming what killed WCW.
Well, didn't Ric Flair being shitty kill WCW?
I love the
Okay,
Ric Flair
so
assassination. I love
no,
it.
it had nothing. Ric Flair is
Wasn't
the
it because
reason
Ric
the
Flair only
company
does
stayed open.
2 moves?
Ric Flair is the reason the company stayed open.
Isn't it? No, isn't he the
Flair
reason they
selling.
closed? Because he was so bad in the ring?
Oh my God,
Because
Ric
he's
Flair
like
is the
terrible?
top 5
He's terrible
wrestler.
at booking. I remember that one too.
No, he is terrible at booking. But they even said on one of the podcasts I listened to, I think it was Tony Schiavone's. He was like, Ric Flair just that wasn't in him. He was a talent, but to ask him to do something like that and sit down and have to, figure out where to go from here, that wasn't really. That's not his MO.
No,
And
his
great.
MO was getting on top of that turnbuckle and getting caught and getting thrown off into the ring. That was super
Do
impressive.
you have a better champion than Ric Flair?
You know what?
In
What's so sad?
WCW?
No, I mean in general. In general.
A better champion? Yeah.
Yeah.
This really makes me think because I think back to Ric Flair's match and he's selling during a bunch of the matches. It really makes me think.
He does
Fuck
the
off.
same thing every
Nobody's
time.
asking you.
He really is. I'm sorry. I think about like when I go back to Ric Flair's matches, the thing that entertained me the most was his selling. When he get
So,
hit and then he fall
we're,
flat on his face.
we're going to ignore the matches in the 80s and shit, all the great matches he had against Barry Windham and Magnum T.A. and Dusty Rhodes and
Yeah, that's because Barry Windham carried him.
oh my God.
Same thing with Steamboat. He put him in his
Oh my
backpack and
God.
took him
Okay.
for a ride.
Now the Steamboat match.
Ooh.
You just
that
really
match-
want to fire him up for some reason. You can start if you start shitting on Bret Hart, Anthony will do the same thing.
False.
Well, Bret Hart's fucking awful.
Oh, you're full
Come
of shit.
on now.
You're full of shit. Don't you ever talk about the
No,
execution like
he's
that.
fucking awful.
Yeah.
He's a great technical wrestler, but I think he's a bit
And that's all
overrated.
you need to be. That's all you need to be. He knows that ring in and out, upside down, all around. He can have a great match in the
If
dark
it wasn't for Shawn
with a
Michaels,
handicapped
Bret Hart
person with one
Bret
leg.
Hart would have been like Bob fucking Backlund. Not saying
So
that
wait,
Bob
time out. So
Backlund-
what about Brett's matches versus? What about even just Brett versus Bulldog, which was way before Shawn? Like
Yeah.
that's one of the greatest matches of all time. He literally carried a man who was on crack and had no idea where he was.
Okay, but
You're
I
saying
mean,
Flair didn't carry anybody on crack? You don't
Flair
know.
was
Flair
the one who
was
was
on
probably
crack.
on crack.
Oh.
He was on crack.
Look, Bret Hart was great. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying it tongue in cheek. He was great. He literally was great. But comparing him to Ric Flair, ain't gonna happen. Nope.
Where does he? Where besides title wins? Where does he rank above Bret Hart? How is he above Bret Hart?
Promo.
Promo definitely.
Thank
Exactly.
you.
Promo,
Definitely.
yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
without a doubt, Ric Flair is arguably like one of the greatest promo people of all
Yeah.
time.
Definitely can't take.
Promos, fucking. First off, wrestling wouldn't have become mainstream if it was not for Ric Flair and the feuds he had with Dusty Rhodes and him going up and Jerry Lawler and going all over the place, wrestling everybody, anywhere, anytime.
Doing the same match over and over.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
you
true.
wouldn't have
That's also true.
modern wrestling as we know it today if it was not for Ric Flair.
I agree.
So I mean, the
Well,
whole
Dusty Rhodes
Okay.
was just as good on the mic and
Dusty was
just as
as good, but
entertaining.
Dusty also a booker. Dusty was booking the territory at that point. Dusty was just as good. So was Magnum T.A. So was Barry Windham at one point in time. Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard were great. Sting was great. I don't think people give Sting a lot of credit for how good he really fucking was. But the standard was Ric Flair. That's it.
Yes, for that. I just think
you
if you
can't-
take him now,
Bret Hart didn't stand alone in his time period as the best ever. Shawn Michaels was just as good.
But it
Stone
was
Cold Steve
right.
Austin.
But he didn't fade in the background either.
Yeah, there was that wrestling time, like that
Well,
attitude.
he did after Goldberg kicked him in the head.
He did. He faded then. But Bret was in, that was like a golden age of stars, like Austin and Michaels and Bret and everything that they had. Like Flair was doing, Flair definitely put wrestling like on the map to a degree, especially for like the South, 100%, and everywhere that like Hogan didn't reach and the WWF didn't
Right.
reach.
Fuck Hogan.
But if you go back and watch a lot of like I can watch multiple Bret Hart matches, right? And I know everybody has like their move set. I know everybody has like their 5 moves of doom or 3 moves of doom, whatever you want to talk. But Bret Hart matches, you get different stuff. Like, look at his match when he first won the King of the Ring, his match versus Bam Bam and versus Perfect. Like, each match was different in that tournament. His matches against Shawn, his ladder match with Shawn was a different type of match than when he lost the title to Shawn. His
Bret
match
and Owen.
Bret and Owen, Bret versus Bulldog, Bret versus Austin. Yeah, they had like some similarities, but they were different. Every Ric Flair match is literally come out, bell rings, Ric Flair tightens up his tights, they dance a little, they grapple. Eventually, Ric Flair does the thing where he like lifts you up and like works on the knee. Then Ric Flair climbs up to the top turnbuckle. He gets caught by his crotch. He gets thrown off. He begs for mercy and pretends like he doesn't know what's going on. He either low blows his opponent or Arn Anderson comes out with some brass knucks and punches somebody in the head. And then Ric Flair puts him in a figure 4 and that's it. It's literally the only
And
thing.
don't forget, Ric Flair blades himself.
That's true.
He
He
has to have
blades furiously.
He blades himself.
He blades like a mountain of lava out of his face.
Wait a minute. So Ric Flair and Barry Windham was a clean, no interference. Wrestled to a 60-minute draw. That wasn't a great match.
He has great matches. I just think they're very much similar in every single match. Like you're getting the same match.
The credit goes to the opponent more than Ric Flair, basically, is what he's saying.
I think you don't even like Bret Hart like that. I don't get why you even trying.
I love Bret Hart. What are you talking about?
I think his
Bret Hart.
Your favorite wrestler is the fucking boogeyman.
No, the fuck is not. I don't even like the boogeyman. I don't even see the boogeyman when he comes down here.
Flair has an awesome finisher. The figure 4 is awesome. He's got a great entrance. He's great on the mic, and his charisma is out of this world. But he can't hold he's not a good worker in the ring. I know there's a lot to being a wrestler.
That's crazy. You're ridiculous.
I'm not work is
I'm
definitely in there, but I'm talking just work rate and in-ring ability. Bret Hart is better than Ric Flair.
Okay.
You know what I like about Bret Hart?
Not. I think they're just very close. It's also a different time and place. You got to think Ric Flair was going around to different places. The reason why he had to have a very similar match is because he had to lay it out for fucking Jim Jones and John Henry and fucking whoever these other champions of these mishmash places were, and being able to explain how you have a Ric Flair match and hey, this is how I'm going to make you look good by doing these things.
But Bret had to do that with Bulldog while he was on crack.
Bret got to wrestle the same sort of guys over and over, even in Stampede and then moving on, he still wrestled the same sort of guys and was able to develop story and stuff like
Bret
that.
Was
it's not something you can do traveling around the world as world champ.
If Bret was so great in the first place in WCW, he would have still been over. Well,
look what the fuck WCW had going on.
You know what, about? Ethan, you well on your way to being replaced with Al.
It was a shit pile.
And also, Bret Hart versus Benoit for the title when Bret won that. That's a good match. Better. That's better than anything Flair has ever done in WCW. No, I'm just kidding.
Benoit with anybody.
The one Bret Hart match at WCW that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bret and Chris Benoit Owen tribute match. That was a great match.
I just think of certain stuff over maybe 4 years ago, I really got into Vader. And I remember hearing about
just getting into Vader?
No, I knew about him and remembered him a lot, but I never had the appreciation for him that I really
You didn't watch the Hanson matches, is what you're saying?
Yeah. So I started to watch more Vader stuff. And the first thing I went to was, I forget what pay-per-view it is, but Flair beats Vader. Flair gets all bloodied, and that's the one after he goes into the locker room and his family's back there and I think it's in North Carolina. I think it's a Starrcade. I don't remember. But it's it was held in such high regard. I was reading all this stuff and everybody's yo, you got to watch Flair versus Vader from this. It's amazing. And I watched it and it sucked. Vader just beats the shit out of Flair. Flair gets busted open. There's no pace or anything to it. And then Flair just lays on top of Vader and like picks it. I don't even remember the finish. He just lays on top of Vader and picks his leg up and gets like a surprise 3 count, and the place goes nuts because he won. But it sucked. Like, it was bad.
Yeah, but also
Yeah.
matches are like rated when they happen. You can't just like
Yeah.
be like
Right.
years down the line. You've seen a lot of things and a lot more creativity, and like
Mhm.
you've also seen a guy do like a 720, which was like not even like possible,
Not even
like
possible
back
5 years
back
ago.
then.
Right.
So it's like hard to judge in
But
that
can't
like
you
manner.
watch like? But can't you watch like
I don't
Brett
think you can
versus
watch.
Austin from WrestleMania and still be like, wow, that's a good match?
Well, hey, some matches stand the test of time, and some is to Alex's point, it's the perspective you were in, because you got to realize people's finishing moves back then. The figure 4 was like held in high regard, but you had some guys whose finishers were literally a missile drop kick or a drop kick, which we would laugh off today.
Hey,
That's
man,
why the leg
drop kicks can be super deadly.
Ronnie
Well, I
Garvin just
understand
stops
that,
your
but-
body.
Ronnie Garvin.
Considering it today, you would be like, wait, that's it? You know, or for instance, I mean, fuck, a spine buster at one point. Arn Anderson had a spine buster or whatever the fuck.
I love that.
It was,
I
I
love
do
Spine
too.
Buster.
I still think it's the best spine buster I've ever seen.
Oh,
But
yeah.
during that time period, that was a high impact, high velocity move.
Good point.
Now, 10, 15 years down the road, you know, a fucking rock bottom or a goddamn pedigree is deadly. You didn't see guys coming up with that kind of shit back then, you know?
True.
So
I get it to a degree, and if I'm doing my Mount Rushmore of wrestling, I'm definitely putting Flair up there for like what he did for the sport and who he is. I just think a lot of it is like a lot of his success is based on his personality and charisma.
Mhm.
I just think from a pure, like, I'm just talking pure in-ring, like, technician standpoint, or who's better in the ring. I think Bret Hart is better in the ring than Flair. But I still think Flair is, like, does Flair's matches bore me? Yeah, but I get where they come from and the story he can tell. Like, I mean, again, look at he was like fucking 1,000 years old when he had that match with Shawn Michaels at Mania.
Still
And
a
that
great
match was like
match.
fantastic. Yeah, I agree. That was like a great match. Like, I just think I'm just talking from like a pure in-ring standpoint. Like, I just think Bret is like better than Flair. I think Flair does like, and like, to Alex's point, made me like think of it even more. Like, I know things are rated differently at a time. Like a 5-star match from, 1991 might not be a 5-star match today with everything that we've seen. But you can watch, like, I think you could take like a Shawn Michaels match or a Stone Cold match or a Bret match from like the mid 90s and watch it right now and be like, oh, that was a good match.
Yeah,
but
but
you
it was
watch a
right.
but you could watch a Flair match and be like, nah, that sucks.
That's untrue, because I've watched plenty and they're 30 years old and I still say,
Well,
fuck.
you're an old school guy. You like old school shit. What do
I
you
mean,
expect? You
it's a
still
real-
watch AWA,
Yeah,
NWA, all that shit.
So what's wrong with that? Hell, that's the only good place you're gonna find wrestling now, because
It's
God.
damn 30 years ago.
So
Different shit.
But you got to be able to watch like the Steamboat trilogy and like realize they were like good
well, I was
matches.
gonna say,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Player. When you watch that match, do you just be like, oh, it was boring? No, you like, fuck, this was great. Same thing with Macho Man and Steamboat at WrestleMania 3. Still a great fucking match.
Oh yeah, great match.
Yeah, it is. Completely. It better be great as much as he wrote shit down for it.
Better
It
than
made
most
him
of Flair's
first.
matches.
Hey, let me tell you something.
I like that.
And was literally, I love Ric Flair, but my favorite wrestler of all time was Macho Man. You don't say anything bad about Randy Savage.
No, there's
Well, I
nothing
mean-
bad to say about him, really.
I didn't know that he was like a really good baseball player.
Yeah.
Cincinnati Reds.
I think that's really
Yeah.
cool. I mean, I wish he would have stuck with that because he was shit as a wrestler.
Oh,
The setup was amazing.
He just
The
died.
setup for that was amazing.
He does not believe that.
I love that
I'm
setup.
kidding.
Anthony,
I
you
just
can't
think-
come back anymore.
Yeah, he's
I
done.
just-
You're out.
I just think if not for Miss Elizabeth, Macho Man never gets over.
Wow.
Wait, what?
Hogan made Macho Man.
So before. Wait, are you bullshitting? Or
Yeah,
Are you,
I'm
Yeah,
bullshitting.
yeah, he's
oh,
bullshit.
okay.
He's bullshit.
Okay.
The fact
Okay.
that you
No.
asked that, he just got over
I,
you
dude,
more.
I didn't know. I mean, you gotta ask. Again, nothing surprises me. Wrestling is vast. You like the fucking boogeyman. Nobody questions that.
Well, I don't even know why the hell you keep on saying I like Boogeyman. I do not
I'm
like the
starting to
fucking
think you
Boogeyman. I don't
do.
think
I
anybody.
remember-
In high school, you used to do the strut down the hallway.
Everybody was doing that damn strut. It was ridiculous.
Nobody was doing that strut. Nobody did that.
Everybody was doing it.
Nobody.
In my world, everybody was
we
doing it.
weren't. You were the only person that did that shit.
Yo, I've never seen anyone do the boogeyman.
Dude, he got it down to a science, too. Like, it was fucking freaky.
I've never seen that.
Look, man,
Hell, at one point, you couldn't have told
high
me
school
that
was tough.
Ethan wasn't the boogeyman.
Okay, now he's bullshitting you. Now he's bullshitting. Now he's bullshit.
But
I did
back
it for
to
laughs.
the question, we done ventured off. Do you guys think that WWE is turning into WCW?
Oof, actually, Alex, you had a really good point on it because we were discussing this in preparation for this episode, as we always prepare. But Alex, you made a good point about that when we were talking about it.
Oh, I think it's like slightly different. I think that WCW kind of it's like they had this, pop radio hit, and then they were just like, radio station just plays it over and over and over again and over again. Everyone just got like sick of it. Whereas like WWE nowadays, they don't even have that hit that they can keep like going on or whatever. They just keep going back to Brock Lesnar. So I thought it was a little different because I thought most of WWE's like problems stem from being a publicly traded company and the fact that they want to keep the bottom line where it is. So
Dude,
that's why they care.
Not to cut you off, Alex. Keithan, did I not just say?
Yeah, you said that. You said that today.
I just told him, I was like, that when they went public and they became a corporation, wrestling died there. You can't go back to the things you used to do. Now, my bad. Carry on, Alex. I just have
you're exactly right because like when Anthony was talking about like, well, Vince used to do this or whatever, and it's like, yeah, that's because Vince, the only person he has to answer to is Vince. Like now that he has to like answer to other people and try to keep like revenue and in like gross margin and like everything like that at a certain level quarter to quarter, it's like that's why he just keeps leaning on the same people because he's like, okay, I know this is what I'll get for merch if like I keep this person in charge and like at the top and like kind of all those things, and it ends up really hurting the product creatively.
But even the angles and shit like that, I don't know if you guys actually heard it, but like Bubba Ray was talking about when he wanted to bring the Bully Ray character to WWE, and he said that Vince was like, "Oh, that would be a great idea, but we can't because we'd have a hard time with people, with the anti-bullying campaign and the sponsorships and stuff like that. If we encourage the behavior, it's a lot of things that they can no longer do. There'll never be an attitude era or ruthless aggression era in the WWE anymore because they can't offend certain types of people. They can't marginalize a stereotype or make innuendo or comments or anything like that. You'll never see that again. So because the product was so good and the satisfaction of the viewer was so high 20 years ago, they were a privately owned entity. It's different now. They have so many people to answer to. Like on the podcast, Dean Ambrose talked about one of the things they wanted him to say about Roman Reigns and him having leukemia. He was like, if I had said that shit, they would have lost sponsorship and endorsement from like Susan. They have so many sponsors and endorsers because at the end of the day, Vince just wants more money now. Wrestling, to me, I think with him now, it's no longer about the business and the sport of professional wrestling. Now he's just using it as a profit. And if you look at it, most of the people he pushed, Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, they
all have dollar signs attached to them.
Exactly. They want money. They bring people in that are money driven. They don't care about the business itself. So it shocks them when you got guys like Dean Ambrose or Sasha Banks or CM Punk or whoever else you want to name or whatever the Revival who are saying, fuck the money. This is what I love. This is what I want to take serious. This is what I want to do. And you're killing that for me. So I'd rather walk away from millions of dollars today and go do what I want that's going to make me happy in the sport of professional wrestling as opposed to it being about dollar signs. Some kind of way they brainwashed John Cena and now he's into the dollar game too. But, I mean, it's just about money now. And I think that's where Triple H and Vince have split down the sides because Triple H has always been about business of professional wrestling. It's never been a money thing for him. Vince is about money. So he's going to put things on TV that bring families and children and things in because those are more and more dollar signs. Triple H is going to use wrestling to bring money in. They're two different people, and I think that's where the conflict is coming in at now. But
Right.
Yeah, no,
I would
you're
agree.
right. You're right. Like it won't really change until he's out of that seat, and I could see that from like obviously we all were like, well, if the product's better, then the gates will be better, and then ticket sales will be better. More people in the door is more merch. It's not like geared towards a certain like person or Cena or Brock or whatever. But he's like still in that mentality where you had like a 1-800 collect blimp on top
Yeah.
of the goddamn arena. And like he's like, everything's sponsored by Slim Jim and like all this like bullshit ways of like getting money. So
And that's why
how
I think
Bischoff was.
yeah, but at that time it was like I think there's similarities with how WCW was towards it like the end of its day and how WWE is now. Like at the end of the run with WCW, there was just so many like bad storylines and stupid things being said and stupid match concepts and like all this corny crap. And I think you see that a lot with WWE now. But I think it's different now because of the fact that WWE is the only game in town for the most part, and because Vince still has, like, much to your guys' point, he still has those things that draw. Like WCW at that time had beaten a dead horse so much that they had nothing to kind of like lean on or rest their laurels on. So all their crap was like front and center. Whereas WWE, like all their crap is kind of hidden a little bit more because they can hide it under the shadow of Brock Lesnar or the Women's Revolution or Ronda Rousey or Roman Reigns' cancer, like something like that. Like they always have some kind of thing to lean on that draws and that they can point to and they don't just have like their crap isn't always front and center like it was for WCW.
Well,
Right.
I think that if they want to start, if you want to find a place to start as far as getting people to tune back in, getting ratings up, maybe go. And I know everybody's gonna say, "Oh, it's fucking dead." I maybe go back to fucking kayfabe. That would be a hell of a start. And
Oh hell yeah.
maybe people start taking it a little bit more serious. But like, there are so many things that are out of place right now
Yeah,
that
these
draw.
damn reality shows that they do. They got to stop with that shit first.
But do you think they're even going to think about that? Like Alex
Yeah.
and I were talking about it earlier today, actually. Like the product is so bad that we were actually talking about it in reference to like how Moxley, talked about how bad WWE's creative process is and whether or not they change, yada yada. But like it's been super bad for a while, but they continue to make money. Like the same people that are like,
Yeah.
yo, WWE sucks. Like, I hate it, but I'm going to go buy this $250 championship replica belt.
Yeah.
Like, they keep buying the merch. They keep buying the network. They keep going to the shows. Like, I can't count how many. I remember being at, me and a buddy of mine went to the G1 special in San Francisco last year, and we were in line, and these dudes were just ripping on WWE for like literally 15 minutes, talking about how shitty it was and blah, blah, blah. And then 5 minutes later, we're talking about how they had to buy their tickets to SummerSlam and buy their plane tickets. And I was like, what? Like, it just, they, despite how shitty the product is, they keep making money. That's what I think the difference is between WCW and WWE now. I think a lot, like, some of the content's not as bad, but it's getting into, like, the bad ratings area, and there's a lot of crap being put on TV, but they somehow keep continuing to make money and make money and make money. And until they get hit in their checkbook, I feel like they won't change anything.
Right.
But I think
That's
that
exactly
has
right.
a lot to do with the fact that if you be honest about it, there's really nowhere else to tune into or to go to. Nobody's ahead of the curve. There's no other, yeah, you got the New Japan Network, which we watch, but it's hard as hell to get people to tune into something that's overseas on a different time zone. You have to be a diehard wrestling fan to want to tune in to New Japan and all the stuff they have.
Yeah, especially live. It's like, oh, I got to get up at like 5 a.m. to like
Right,
watch the show.
exactly. I mean, and then you go to Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor's okay. They're like a viable number 2 right this second. But you also got to go through a lot of slack. They're not on major television. You have to figure out how to find them and all of this shit. And then their talent gets poached because they can't pay you as much as WWE.
And their production level isn't great because
Right.
Sinclair invests
And
nothing in their shit.
fucking Impact The only good thing on Impact right now to me is Tessa Blanchard, and I don't know why she's fucking there, but that's it.
Well,
She's
she
there to
sucks too
wrestle
because
this one.
She sucks just like Tully Blanchard sucked.
Oh shit! Oh shit! I said
I'm
off
just
again.
kidding.
Jesus.
I'm completely kidding. She's fantastic. I'm waiting for her to jump ship and go to WWE at some point. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I feel
I
like
don't think
she
she's
is.
ever gonna make it there. I think she'd be better off at AEW.
oh,
Because
100%.
her dad still has issues with them for how that shit went down when he was there.
Well, and
So,
I'm sure Tully's probably cool with the idea of the Rhodes boys like running their own kind of production or something like that.
right.
He'd
Yeah.
probably pat her on the back if she went over to AEW.
So
Yeah, they
but
can get a
they're-
lot of people just off the strength of them being Rhodes guys.
Yeah.
You know, just
And they know the business, the reputation they have, the reputation Dusty had. Like, oh my god.
absolutely the brain
I-
that guy had. Oh man,
But
crazy.
if you can get a viable alternative that can compete, that's on major television, that's got good talent, that's putting on good matches, that have storylines that make sense, people start changing the channel. People start going to those events. Yeah, you didn't have that before. You have the potential to have that now, but I mean, again, you caught lightning in the bottle last week. Can you keep doing it? You know, and
Yeah, that's
then
the
now
thing.
you're finna have television in the fall. Can you do this week to week to week to week?
Right.
And other people on TV that are gonna make me tune in. I think for one, I was a little disappointed in them for not having more belts revealed last weekend. I thought that would have been the time to say, well, okay, this is for the AEW tag team title, or oh, okay, this is for. I think there should have been some more work put into that versus it's too many subsidiaries and things like that they're, and I think that may come back to bite AEW. You got AAA and you got the Oriental Wrestling or whatever it's called, and then you got guys that are supposed to be your main, like some of your top guys. They're not even just signed to AEW. They have non-exclusive contracts.
Right.
So you run into problems like you ran into with Pac, where it's like, oh, I can't lose because this will make me look bad, or whatever the case may be. You can't have that. I think those are going to be the things that are going to cause confusion later. But if you can, in order for you to be a viable alternative, there has to be some type of structure and content. You got to have something in place. But if there's another alternative that isn't New Japan or Ring of Honor or Impact or whatever the fuck, or if anybody even still watches Lucha Underground, but like if you have a viable alternative, then yeah, the pocketbook does start to kind of dwindle around a little bit or whatnot. Speaking of, how did you guys feel about the Pac and Hangman Page debacle or whatever?
I was super upset about it initially. Actually both Alex and I, like one of the main things we were talking about like leading up to it was like, oh, it'll be sweet, to have, Pac versus Hangman. Hopefully Pac gets the belt. Then we could see like Pac versus Kenny. That would be amazing. Like everything with Pac's character, like how, as a heel, and his moveset has always been great. He's been great in the ring. And then like this character that he's had as like a heel for the last couple of years has just been phenomenal. Yeah, like he's been nailing it everywhere. And I thought he was a big draw for like two reasons. Like one, he satisfies the wants of like the hardcore fans and the indie fans because he's a really good wrestler, and he's not gonna like his work in the ring and the spots that he does, nobody's gonna be like, oh man, that was boring, or oh man, he sucks. So he hits that demographic. And then in the same time, he hits that commercial demographic because people are going to know him and be like, oh shit, that's the guy with the big ears from WWE. Like he's with AEW now. That's really cool. Like he gets that commercialism aspect and he gets that indie crowd. So I was pumped as hell for that to be a match. When they lost him, I was really like upset and like a little worried. Like there's so many. The goal at the end of the day, I feel like, is for AEW. We want AEW to be successful. One, just so we have like good wrestling somewhere. But two, the hopes is, much to your point, like you just mentioned with everything, like having another successful game in town, in theory, should make everybody step their game up because competition should breed, better productivity and, better output from everybody. So we want AEW to be successful. And I was nervous for, what if there was like some cracks in the armor. I mean, actually, the four of us talked about it the last time we got together. We were talking about like, oh, what happens when if there's any backstage politics, what happens when Cody is like, oh, I want the belt? Like, none of these guys have booked or produced or anything like that. Will there be any problems with everybody trying to put themselves over? So the first thing I thought when that happened, I was like, oh, shit. They probably wanted to put Paige over Pac. Pac didn't want that. He's out. I was like, uh-oh, like, there's already kind of cracks in the armor. The political game is already, like, turning its head. They haven't even fucking really opened the doors yet. I was like a little, oh, that's a fun noise. I was a little like, I was a little worried from my perspective, but I think they came out of it like really well. And, Pac's still going to be a part of it. He's just really taken his run as Dragon Gate champ, like super, super, super serious. But I think they came out of it well, all things considered. But I was definitely worried at first.
Well, Keaton thinks that he was being a diva, like that's consistent with his behavior.
No,
Really?
I said some people would take it as that, because some people, from what I saw online, they weren't really, putting the blame on AEW. They were kind of directing their displeasure towards him, they were basically calling him a diva, like saying like, oh, well, you already agreed to this. Why the hell would you do this? And you just screwed us out of a good match at
I could definitely
one of the
see
biggest
that.
wrestling events. Yeah.
But I thought that initially, but then changed a little when we found out that Pac was going to beat Paige, but then Pac was eventually going to lose to Kenny come
Yeah.
the fall or whatever like that. And I think it's just a conflict with, I don't know how the timing worked out. I don't know if like when they brought him on earlier this year that they were like, hey, here's the plan now, here's the plan then, and he was like, cool, got it. And I don't know if he agreed to it then and backed out of it now, or it changed when Dragon Gate like made him champ and everything, and then that he realized the run that he was going to be on there, so he didn't want to end up losing. I think it's tough. I could definitely see, you could make an argument for both sides of it, but
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I was going to say. I blame both. I blame Pac because for the simple fact of, hey, listen, this is where we were going. This is what we kind of get laid out a plan for you, so and so and so and so. You kind of already knew that they had enough time to prepare to know. But I think if we're putting it in on a scale, I think it's 70%, 80% AEW, 20% him, because I go back to what I said earlier. You can't expect these types of things will happen when you got a talent working multiple promotions. There's gonna be some confusion there, and all of these guys obviously have joined up and are working in the same company for the simple fact they all take wrestling serious. So much so that they think that a loss here or a loss down the road somewhere may or may not damage what type of credibility they have elsewhere. Now, you know what would cause them to not have to worry about that? If you say, hey, if you sign here, this is where you work. Then it doesn't matter because it's all under one umbrella. I don't think WWE would get anything done if they allowed, say, a Seth Rollins or a AJ Styles to work for WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling or whatever, because fuck, there's too many conflicts there. Well, I'm the champ on New Japan. I can't lose to this guy because I got to go back and take on so and so, and it wouldn't be believable. You get too many things going on at once. It's shame on them for not thinking of that. It's the same thing with the Lucha Bros. Supposedly they're not exclusive to AEW. They still work for Impact. If they're the tag team champs on Impact, how does that factor in if, say, they're facing another team that they should or should not be able to handle because they're already champs somewhere else? It just, you're setting up confusion by letting these guys basically do what they want to do to keep them comfortable. So I can't really blame him. I think most of the blame goes to the promotion, and that's going to have to be something that they figure out quickly. Hopefully it's not a hard lesson somewhere down the road, because supposedly NJPW still wants to work with Kenny Omega. I know that
Right.
Jericho is doing a match with Okada for NJPW. Jericho
And
probably
Moxley got a
Right.
match now.
Moxley too.
Right,
Jeez.
and Jericho is probably less likely because Jericho's kind of paid his dues. He's a statesman. He can do what he wants. But if that turns out to be your champion, then how is that going to work out?
Yeah.
I
Because
feel like they're doing it for more of a selling point to get talent there. Like, hey, we're not just gonna have you exclusively here like WWE has. We're not gonna have you strangled, and smothered. You can go off and do whatever you want to do.
but
We're
but
gonna have our
again,
plan.
when all of these guys are taking their personas and characters and the belts themselves so serious, can you go for that? Because it's different when it was, oh, I work for NJPW and I'm just doing an appearance or in a partnership with ROH or Impact or whatever. But now you got a major promotion, and God forbid, say Jericho's your AEW champ, and then he goes and becomes NJPW champ, just hypothetically speaking. How does that work out?
I actually think it would be fine. I think more it takes a lot of things. It takes one, the wrestler being like super serious about wins and losses. I don't want to say that's like that isn't, it's like hyper kind of in your character, right? I only think like there's a finite amount of people that would like really care about that. But I also think it's more about the promotions experience with working with each other, because we haven't seen a lot of that like New Japan, ROH, blah blah blah, when they've gone back and forth and had people win titles. They've actually like been pretty smooth and working together. It's about like the promotional, I guess, just like inner workings, them just working better together. I think Dragon Gate like hasn't worked with a lot of other promotions, so they might like not know that, oh, if we put this on Pac, he feels a certain way, and like not know how everybody's like feelings are going to be about certain things. So it's going to take the kind of that like learning process. But I think there is a way it can work, because I always thought AEW, despite obviously wants to get big and like they would love to like be big and be second and try to challenge WWE, but really like I think they want to be like for the wrestler. So if they want to wrestle here, that's okay. If they want to wrestle there, that's okay. That's like a part of their appeal, let's say, with like working there. It's just they got to get better as far as like working with the promotions and how that goes.
And as they go with time, I think they'll get more depth in their roster and more people. And as they grow, you might see more people actually sign exclusive contracts because they'll want to work there. I think for the time being, not that they don't have options, but I don't think they necessarily have the flexibility to be like, well, let's sign all these guys exclusively. They have to kind of do the dance right now until they become established. And once they do, they might have more exclusive people signed. But I think Alex was kind of spot on with that too. Like everything that Cody's been saying and the Bucks have been saying, everything, it's like this is supposed to be like a promotion like for the wrestlers, by the wrestlers, and it's a revolution, and it's not a company, it's not a business, it's like a passion, and it's a thing that everybody wants to do because they love. And it's kind of hard to preach that and then at the same time be like, yeah, we want you to like do what you love, but you can't go anywhere else, you got to stay with us. It's like a little contradictory to their message. Maybe it'll change, but yeah, and as long as they have that promotional flexibility, like we've seen, I mean, I know for the most part we know like, okay, if there's a New Japan champion fighting a Ring of Honor champion, we're pretty sure the New Japan champion is going to win because, New Japan takes precedence over Ring of Honor type of thing. But as long as you have a good working relationship with that other company, I think you can do it pretty easily. Minus the whole debacle that we had with Pac.
Yeah, New Japan, it's better for them to work with AEW anyway, because their talent might be more prone to go to either Ring of Honor or possibly AEW instead of WWE. I mean, you see what they do to Japanese talent over there.
Oh my God!
Well, side note: does anybody know what happened to Jay White?
What do you mean?
I hadn't really heard anything since he lost to Okada in Supercard.
Oh, he's got a match at, I forget who he fights at Dominion, but this is kind of like just a down period for the bigger dudes. I mean, the only thing that's really been going on has been Best of Super Juniors, which has been awesome. But the only thing really on those cards is just like they throw some dudes in for tag matches like here and there, and it's just the focus on the Super Juniors. I forget who he fights at. He fights someone in. Oh, he fights Tanahashi again at Dominion on June 5th. Yeah.
It's just so weird now to not see him rematching for the title or anything, because he was so white hot after Wrestle Kingdom. Like, he was hot. And then at G1, they took it off of him, and it's like, okay, it just, I don't know. That I kind of expected them to at least rematch that, or there to be some type of long-term feud between he and Okada so that he could chase it, or he got it back or whatever. But
I think he'll get back. He'll get back there. Like Yeah, I feel like he's fighting Tana at Dominion. Maybe I'm wrong. I might be wrong. But he should have a match on it at the very least. And then I think once the G1 comes around, he should be a prominent figure in it again. I don't know what they're gonna do with. I'm interested to see who's gonna win the G1 because Naito fights Ibushi for the Intercontinental title at Dominion, and I feel like the only two possible people that could win the G1 are either Jay White or Naito, and then
Naito
they would
probably got
face.
it.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably Naito, and then he'll fight Okada again at Wrestle Kingdom for the belt. And like we talked about the last time the four of us got together, with them splitting up Wrestle Kingdom into 2 nights now, you basically need like 2 main event caliber matches. You need a big match for night 1 and a big match for night 2. So if you've got like Naito and Okada for the belt at the end of night 2, maybe you put Jay White for the Intercontinental title or something at the end of night 1. You need something to like kind of grab everybody and still kind of do something.
Kind of bring the
interesting.
house down.
Yeah,
I would like to see Ospreay step up and maybe take a shot.
I'm really I thought they were, when they gave him the Never belt, that was his like introduction into like the heavyweight circle, and I thought he would do more. I was surprised to see him in Best of Super Juniors. I'm hoping he also gets to do G1. I don't know if he can handle it because I know his neck is still like jacked up. But yeah, I thought he would get more into the Intercontinental title picture. I would love, especially since him and Ibushi wrestled at Wrestle Kingdom last year for the Never belt. I would love if this upcoming, if the main event for night 1 was him versus Ibushi for the Intercontinental title. I would love that.
Good. That match was except for the fact that Ibushi got hurt. That match was fucking good.
Yeah, give me that. That'd be sweet. And they seem to be grooming Ospreay as kind of like they keep calling him as like a little baby Okada and stuff like that. So maybe he gets that push. I think Jay White will still be. There's no way they put the belt on him and then have Gato be his like on TV manager if he wasn't gonna still be like a main event fixture and like person. You know, maybe I don't know. Maybe he's got some kind of injury that could kind of derail him. But aside from that, I don't think there's anybody really stopping like the rocket that they've kind of strapped to him a little bit.
Right, and he, I mean, man, he was like really, really hot, and
he's awesome.
He won the belt, and I was like, okay, great. And then NJPW doesn't usually change titles that quickly, so for them to change, it's like, well, what the hell?
Well, you also got to think too, because that wasn't supposed to be. The plan was for Kenny to keep the belt all the way until Supercard, and then Okada was going to beat him for the belt at Supercard. So they just basically had to adjust on the fly and be like, oh shit, well, since Kenny's leaving, he's already in a match versus Tanahashi. Let's just we got to take the belt off Kenny. So boom, there it goes for Tanahashi. But it doesn't really make sense to leave it on Tanahashi. So let's give it to Jay White and then have Okada take it from Jay White. So that way there's a bigger pop. So their hand was kind of forced in that regard. Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like they don't really change belts that much. I think it's even more of a credit to what New Japan does. Like their long-term plans were kind of thrown for a loop like the month of their biggest pay-per-view of the year, and they managed to adjust on the fly, create a new superstar, and still come out of it like great.
But that's just a credit to them because they have talent that can actually step up and have like high caliber matches, and they're so over with the crowd and great at putting on 5-star matches without.
They feel a connection to those dudes because they develop them, and they book them. They don't just bring in fucking part timers. Well, minus for
exactly.
Well, they have a booker that knows what the fuck he's doing. He books things a year in advance.
Yeah, he books everything. He has like 11-year-olds in the dojo who he knows are going to be like IWGP champion 30 years from now.
Right. Like I mean, you kind of already have an idea. Now, the only thing that threw a wrench in his plans, to Anthony's point, was Kenny leaving. I don't think they would have cared if the Bucks left. Cody kind of was in and out there and stuff. They didn't really give a fuck. Jericho's a statesman. He can go and do whatever the fuck he wants to do. Nobody cared. But Kenny leaving threw a wrench in the plan significantly. So they have to make adjustments. Now, I think even with that small snafu, he probably already has an idea on what the fuck he's going to do going the rest of this year. Then come Wrestle Kingdom, he'll have a whole new plan that's going to stretch 12 months because he knows how to fucking book. Vince McMahon doesn't know how to book shit.
Not
Vince
anymore.
McMahon
Like,
writes shit when the show is
But
still going for an hour. He's
yeah,
still
I
writing
don't even
damn
think
script.
he ever knew how to book. And I was telling Keaton this today. Like, I think Vince had the right people at the right time in the right places. You had an Austin and a Rock, and you had a Triple H and an Undertaker, and then at the same time in the back you had a Bruce Pritchard, a Jim Cornette, a Pat Patterson. All of these guys just, even to a certain degree, and I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but even in some regards, a Vince Russo. And you had guys that came up with ideas and put things in place and shit. And then it helped that you had two of the best announcers that anybody's ever seen that were able to put this shit out to an audience. It had nothing to do with Vince. It was all the people around him. He just kind of was the wallet.
that's such a funny point. Like, I think now it's tough for WWE. Alex mentioned it earlier. Like, they have so much content that they're always like writing and rewriting and editing and fixing like the day before. Like Sasha Banks has mentioned it before, like the hour before Raw starts, like they're literally rewriting and writing. So
Yeah.
there's no consistency. There's no, there's a lot of like incoherent crap that's going on. And we see that on TV and we see that in the booking. But I feel the same way you do. I've always kind of made the point, like, everyone talks about like, oh, Vince is a great wrestling mind or whatever. I don't think he is. Like, he rode the Hulk Hogan wave by basically just pandering to the crowd for like patriotism and the same old thing, and then like he beat the horse with that so much that even when Taker beat Hogan for the first time, and you rewatch that, like a bunch of people cheered, like they wanted Hogan to lose because they were over his like act, and then Hogan left, everything kind of fell apart for a little bit, and even when the Attitude Era was going strong, which by the way, Vince didn't come up with the Attitude Era. Attitude Era. He took it from Paul Heyman and ECW,
Yes,
basically,
he did.
True.
and
True.
took basically just poached everybody's wrestlers by giving them more money. Not to mention, it was with money that he didn't earn. It was his daddy's company money, which he inherited from his daddy. Even when the Attitude Era was going really great and strong, they were still losing in the ratings every single week to WCW. Like WWF beat WCW, and it is a testament to WWF. Like they outlasted, they were successful, they won, but they kind of won by default. Like I don't see them beating WCW.
was so stupid.
Yes,
I mean,
WCW
Yeah.
shot themselves in the foot
They
and
did.
killed themselves more than WWF beat them. It's like one of those like games you watch for anything. It's like, well, so this team lost it more than this other team won it. Like WWF won by default. And
Yeah,
so I
they
don't
just
think Vince is
came
a
in
great
and
mind.
picked up the scraps.
Exactly, and
They were
and
buzzards.
that's where they are. And I
Fit the
think now when
purpose.
you see it, I guess it's different now. It's easy to rest on your laurels when you're the only game in town and you're a gajillionaire. But like, I mean, look at Vince's other ideas. Like the XFL was terrible. He came out with some bodybuilding federation in the 90s
hey,
that
the
was terrible.
XFL produced Tommy Maddox.
They did,
Who?
and he was good with the Pittsburgh Steelers he had that sweet game in the playoffs against the Browns, and then turned shitty, and Ben Roethlisberger took his job.
Boom.
But yeah, I've never.
We'll see because he's about to do it again. So
Yeah, maybe he'll
Yeah,
be
he's
successful
about to-
with it now. I've thought of that for a while. Like it's such a you can make arguments on both sides of it. Like obviously to be around this long and to be on the same like the longest running show forever and getting all these network deals and having all this success, like you have to be doing something right at some point. But yeah, I've never thought Vince was a great wrestling mind.
I'm upset about the XFL because of the simple fact of, if you're doing a football league and you're bankrolling it out of your own pocket, that means you ain't focused on goddamn wrestling. So if you're gonna do the XFL, you need to step down and let Triple H have the wrestling piece of the pie. Because my personal love for wrestling shouldn't suffer because of your incessant greed. Now, I feel, and this is me, instead of subjecting everybody to another shit try at the XFL, why the fuck didn't he just buy a football team?
I don't think I don't think you can get into the club because everybody has to approve you to get.
Oh yeah, the owners have to vote.
it's hard to get into the club. Like say the last owner who just picked up the Panthers, David Tepper, who's like he's like a hedge fund guy out of PA.
Yeah.
He basically had to become a minority shareholder or a minority owner for the Steelers for the last like few years to be like, okay, this guy's good and get vetted and like everything before he was even on the, the upper tier of getting in on the Panthers. That's why it's hard for like when everyone's like, oh, we're gonna get Steph Curry and this guy and that guy and like all these celebrities together. Because you're just not going to get through that ownership group. It's going to be like impossible because they're like, we don't know you.
And also, if you think about it too, I don't think Vince, much to that point, I don't think Vince gets like wrestling just isn't really respected in like mainstream society a lot. I feel like it's still looked down upon as like, oh, they're just a bunch of fucking carnies that do a bunch of fake shit. So I think like when Vince McMahon like comes into like the room with the other like billionaires or like super wealthy people, I just feel like they kind of like laugh him out of the room. Like they're all like, oh yeah, like I own Microsoft. Oh yeah, like I own this company. Like what do you do? And he's like, oh, I do wrestling. They're like, that fake carny shit? Get out of here. And I feel like they don't respect him. And then when you combine that with like how hard it is to get into that boys club of being an NFL owner, like I mean Trump tried it for friggin' years. Granted, his them not wanting him in there was a little more because of him starting like other football leagues and trying to bury the NFL. But yeah, it's hard to get into that boys club.
I don't know, man.
I mean, the belief is that Vince will step away once the XFL starts. That's the belief. That's what I heard a few months back.
And I want it to be successful, like, because also the NFL is doing a lot of stupid shit, so maybe that makes the NFL better. But I'm more of just hoping that it's become successful, so Vince has to have a focus on it to the point where he's like, okay, I need to take my foot off the gas for wrestling and give it to somebody else.